Hello and welcome everybody to the final podcast of the season of season four, and it obviously was for the championship decider in some of the divisions, but the last race of the season, which was at Interlagos in Brazil. And I've got Cynthia with me once again, who was fighting for a championship himself down in Division 5. So, I think not too much to say about it, just immediately head into our top tier division, which obviously is Division 1. And in Division 1, we also had a championship fight going on, even though it almost was done after Abu Dhabi because Snipes only needed to score 1 point, or Beeford not to score maximum points because it was obviously down to not only 25 points for Beeford, but also the point for pole position and fastest lap the Mercedes driver had to score. And indeed, after qualifying, the championship was decided as Beeford only qualified in P4, as CPI Nardo got pole position. So from then on, it was clear that Snipes won the championship. Looking at the race results, though, of a wet Brazilian Grand Prix, it was Beeford, though, who won the race, actually, with FRC Furious in second, starting from P19 on the grid, and myself in P3. Max Souza then finished fourth, with Daniel Romero on his debut in P5, JW Gibson in P6, FG3 in P7, Snipes, the champion of this season, in P8, FG Jacob in P9 and Wells Jack in P10, while Decubi finishes P11 and TTV Marchurisian in P12 with the fastest lap of the race, while we have DNFs for Noka, Sam, Shakos, Delta, Efatidan, Torpen, Nardo and Quarrel. Looking at the championship, we have Snipes obviously on top with 363 points, edging out Beeford by 10 points as he sits on 353. Whilst Jack scoring a few points at the final round means he finishes third with 233 points, while Blade comes fourth with 227. Esselaham remains in P5 of the championship after only doing around the first 8 races, as he sits on 164 points, while myself Atom 77 finishes P6 with 151 points and means he's the leading tier 2 driver of the season. JW Gibson then, and the last round of the season, moves up to P7 in the championship, so he basically is best of the rest with his 109 points, as he actually moves up by 4 positions. Mark Souza then in P8 on 103 points, just 1 point ahead of Torpen, who sadly DNF'd. Radius then in P10 on 97 points, just ahead of drivers like Ghosts, Jacob, Sora, Sam, Bourbon, Michael Dale, Delta, Dan, Noka and Christoph. In the Constructors' Championship, obviously Alpine have already won the Constructors' Championship before Brazil, as they now sit on 596 points, and Mercedes have gained a bit at least in the last race of the season with 515 points, at least within 100 points reach of the French outfit. McLaren sits in third on 345 points, while Red Bull move up 2 places at the final race of the season with 282 points, just 5 points ahead of Alfa Romeo. Aston Martin then in P6 on 269, with Ferrari on 237, while Haas pass Williams with 191 to 189, and Alpha Tauri sit in 10th off the table with 140 points, rounding that championship off as well. Snipes has won the championship in the end. So as we've mentioned before, even though just about from Beeford with 10 points, he obviously will be annoyed. But I think ending the season on a high, which is a race win by a couple of seconds actually, in a wet race as well, must give him some confidence for the next season, won't it, Cynthia?
Yeah, I think he'll be pretty annoyed that he did not win the championship considering he won the race, but as you said, it's always good to win on a high. That'll definitely give him a boost into next season, so I think it'll be good to see where he can finish next season and what he can do.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, I was teammate of Beeford, so he was pushing for the championship all season long. Just a few unfortunate results cost him in the end as well. While Snipes just remained consistent throughout the season. But looking further down the table, I mean, not only was it Gibson and myself who could move ourselves up the table in the last few rounds and some good performances, but also drivers like Welsh Jack, who has won the most races out of everyone on the grid, but finishes third with more than 100 points behind the top two. I mean, he's got a push further for next season, doesn't he? Because if you're third in the championship, you at least would aim for second, if not first. And there are some points to claw back, or do you think such a big points margin can even be turned around, or is it just it starts on zero again? So might as well go for it.
I guess as you finish third, it's sort of like finishing third on the podium. You think next race or next season, I can do better, at least second, but the biggest target is the championship or the win, you know? And I think finishing third is the best thing you can look at as you've only got two people ahead of you that have beaten you. Whereas obviously next season will be fresh. You can push yourself to the limit and be the only person at top with no one ahead of you, only need to look behind you and keep it consistent, really.
Yeah, for sure. As I said, Jack has had some fabulous races, but then again, I think it was four back-to-back races where he wasn't in the top 10, which obviously is a no-no in the championship fight, really. I mean, he was in it at times, but then not again. He was a Ramblade who missed a couple of races, but yeah, just not what you want, really. Just ended up not being his season, but it was Jack's first full season in GRL, and I think there are worse outcomes than being third in the top division itself. Yeah, I mean, looking at the whole table here at Division One in the Drivers' Championship. I mean, there are, especially from P6, P7 downwards, there are a couple of drivers who scored actually a couple of points, more than 50 for actually 16 of them. And we're obviously heading towards the next draft night very shortly. In 2024. And the team owners who are already announced will probably think about who to pick, who might be in the correct tier for them to pick someone, or even the teammate like Beeford. Um, you reckon that the outcome of this season might just mean that you get picked by a team owner you want, or do you reckon people will not focus too much on the table from last season?
I think it's a mix, really. As much as the team owners will want the fastest drivers to be alongside them or to be just in their team in general, you've got to think about anyone who may not have had the brightest season, but you know has the potential to be up there if you give them time and enough practice. So, yeah, I think the best thing to do is if you can really want to do it, give it a risk. Go for someone who's, again, further down the championship. They might shine bright the next season, show them what they are made of and obviously what they can do. But whereas if you pick someone who's really quick, either the title winner or fighting for the title, you've got basically a guaranteed title fight on your hands with your teammate or with the person that you have chosen for your team. Obviously, you just got to make sure that you sort of pick the same teammates as if you're the team owner. You want to pick teammates which are relatively the same pace. You don't want to pick one which is ridiculously quick and have one which is ridiculously slow, because not only will that ruin the morale of the slower person, it will just make the teammate think we could be scoring more points if I've got a faster teammate. But I think it's just what the team owners think that they can do and think what everyone else can do, really.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we saw it at the top of the constructors in Division One this season, I think, because Mercedes, obviously, with Beef and myself, had a team that was there was a clear number one, there was a clear number two, all the way. Well, at Alpine, they had two top drivers, and with Welshjack being into two surprisingly, which might have been a wrong placement at draft night. meant that Snipes very often actually had to be cautious when his teammate attacked him, because obviously you don't want to ruin the Constructors' Championship at all. And if you look at the table, I mean, it's 80 points really the gap, but if you say there was a 1-2 less from that, then it probably could have been pretty close at some point. So yeah, team owners certainly need to be wise when they pick their drivers. I mean, it paid off for Alpine here this season, but yeah, it's going to be very interesting for next season, because I think the field will be even closer going into the second season and just in the second game cycle, really. So, gonna be very, very interesting for sure. But yeah, I think looking away from that, we can have a look at Division 2, where it also was a championship yet to be decided, while Dylan Baxter actually was 26 points, 27 points, sorry, off the championship lead. In theory, it was still possible, considering you get also point for fastest lap and pole position. But he had a quali ban, so that went out the window, because usually it's quite tough to get pole position while you have a quali ban, unless everyone else disqueues themselves, which I think barely happens. So it was basically Jamie Hobbs versus Gente bars, and Gente I think had like a 14 points gap on Jamie Hobbs, and it was pretty tight at the end, because Gente was involved in some incidents during the race, meaning he received a reprimand and a 10-second time penalty, while Jamie Hobbs got pole position and won the race. And yeah, in the end, it came down to the wire, as you might see later. But for the Brazilian Grand Prix itself, it was obviously Jamie Hobbs who won the race from pole position, while Dom came second in his final Div 2 race of the season, while Cons came third for Alfa Romeo, and Drastic Blaze finished fourth. So top four for both Alphas and both Hasses, while Partick finished fifth with Dylan Baxter in P6 and Gente, as said, in P7. So once again, Mercedes could have switched here to make it safe, but no need for it. Avenicus then in P8 with DNFs for Rage, Lloyd, Cole, Jobbo, Rob Kelly, and TRX Jans. Looking at the Drivers' Championship then though, and as you can see, it was really, really close, as Shente Bars just about wins the championship from Jamie Hobbs by 1 point. I mean, he would have won it on countback, but it certainly was closer than he would have hoped it to be. So yeah, first title for the Belgian driver, just about ahead of the Northern Irishman. Dylan Baxter, Scotsman, finishes in third with a solid margin 2P4 in AMS Cole on 183 points. AMS Partick with another P5 finishes also P5 in the championship, as he now sits on 164 points, just 10 points ahead of BOT Jobbo. So the AMS driver passes the BRT driver. Rob Kelly then in P7, 2 points behind Jobber, while Essela Jam sits in P8 with Amos Lloyd in ninth, 10 points ahead of Avenicus in 10th. In the next 10 positions of the Drivers' Championship, we've got BRT Jordan, Jim LFCMC, the Slappers, Savage Cabbage, Hypes, Grazzy, Clever Conts, Caesar 2 Wizard, who won at Abu Dhabi obviously, and Drastic Blaze for the Haas team in P20 on 52 points. In the Constructors' Championship, Mercedes, as we've said in previous weeks, just dominant in this tier. Not the best of weekends for them to top the season off, but they still sit on 548 points. So very strong season for them. With Alpha Tauri remaining in second on 369 points, and it looked like they were, of course, easily safe in that second place. It was pretty tight at the end due to Hobbs and Cons delivering for them, as Alfa Romeo are now third on 363 points, and Red Bull on 324. So Red Bull loses a spot to Alfa. McLaren then in fifth on 313 points, Ferrari on 305, just 5 points ahead of Haas. Alpine then sit in P8 on 223, while Aston Martin sit in ninth, just 9 points ahead of Williams. Williams tops off the table on 169 points. I mean, as said, Gente had a solid gap of 14 points, but even though he won it at the end, it wasn't the most comfortable of margins, really. And I think no matter if you win or not, it's certainly you would like to win it with a bit more margin, wouldn't you?
I think he was just trying to make it look fun, to be honest. But yeah, I think he definitely would have wanted a bigger margin. I feel for sure he was definitely, on the edge of his boots for a second, looking at, the score, waiting to see where he'd finished and what it would have been. I'm sure he probably would have knew, but yeah, I feel like as long as you win, it's a win. You don't
Yeah,
have to really say next time I've got to do it again. No, it's the end of the season now. You can sort of relax. You've got the championship. That is something that you can be proud of, really. But yeah, I mean, a close title fight is what everyone wants to see. To finish in front by 1 point just makes it all the more fun to watch. But yeah, um, obviously, congrats to him. I think he's well deserved it, and I guess see what he can do next season.
yeah, for sure. I mean, it obviously there always was the risk of him getting a points deduction for the incidents he caused, because that's what those rules are in place for. But yeah, luckily for him, he just made it, and Hobbs himself said in chat as well. Very well deserved championship, and he actually doesn't mind it too much that he's lost it to him. I mean, obviously, Hobbs probably would have liked to win the championship himself even more, but very very fair, but fair play to him to congratulate Gente apparently at the end. As he even caused an incident. But yeah, I mean, there was also a move for Alfa Romeo in the Constructors' Championship up into P3. And we said the last 2 weeks, also when you were here, that AlphaTauri looked pretty stable in second place. I mean, with Parthic scoring a few points in P5 and Avenicus, I think, being ninth or so, it was pretty close for them as well in the end, but they just about made it. I mean, even though they were furious after Brazil because Avenicus was fighting for the podium at one point and then just had the collision with Shente. I mean, could you say that they were unlucky but lucky at the same time, or how would you sum that end of the season up for AlphaTauri?
If I remember correctly, I think last week I just said all they've got to do is keep it consistent. As it was a bit of rinse and repeat last week, just keep it consistent, do the best you can. But it clearly shows that they've been able to do that exactly. I mean, although one of their drivers has been involved in an incident, they can still be proud of what they did. As much as it wasn't the win for the team, uh, near enough a 200 point gap, you weren't really going to be able to close that to Mercedes anyway. But again, second place is still a good achievement to yourself, and to say, it's a pretty strong lineup that you've had, and hopefully you can do it again the next year.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly would aim one higher, I would assume. But I think for
Who
that, they
wouldn't?
would even sacrifice 5 more points in the championship uh, compared to the people below them. But yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, with Avenicus and Partick, they've certainly got two very strong drivers towards the end of this season. And I think they can be happy with that second place because it basically is best of the rest, isn't it? Considering it's so close down there, with also the likes of Red Bull, McLaren, Ferrari, Haas. Yeah, so you probably would have preferred Haas up there, but well, that were some other divisions. So yeah,
As I said, you can only do what you can do.
you can indeed. I mean, talking about AlphaTauri, I mean, Partick has also said got P5 now in the championship after only being reserved at the start of the season, so it's probably fine for him being the second best AMS driver as well. But yeah, that's Division Two. Sadly, not too much going on at the top of the constructors, but it was for P2 still, and it was for P1 and actually P2 in the drivers' championship. So yeah, that was a very interesting end to the season there as well. And we now have a look at Division 3. I mean, the championship was already decided in Division 3 due to Musello no longer racing. it was clear that Boosted will be the driver's champion for the first time. A driver that has been in GRL since day one, pretty much. He's moved to PC this season to engage those grip packs, and it worked. No, obviously. Very well done to Boosted RB himself to clinch that title. And therefore he thought, you know what, I might as well DNF in the last race of the season, because why not? Nevertheless, it was Corey who won from FSC Gaten Cars and some Pikachu, while Skyfee, Artie Moreno, and RM Lawn all finish in the top 6, with Stanch Lotus in P7, AJ Nolan in P8, and Thomas in P9, while as said, Boosted has DNF'd like a couple of others. Looking at the Drivers' Championship, Boosted, there we go, 263 points on top, with some Pikachu now second in the championship on 227.5. So some Pikachu had a very strong end to the season, but it just wasn't quite enough to challenge Boosted for that championship. Yeah, Avenicus remains in third with 196 points, while Mack is in fourth on 188.5, just 6 points ahead of RM Lawn. So the two Mercedes drivers both in the top 5, solid season for them. And considering he was the only one ever, RM Lawn therefore has the best season finish for any Lithuanian driver in GRL. So that's a stat for himself. Corey in P6 now in the Drivers' Championship with 163.5 points. So a really midway and ending part to the season for the Polishman, with Ashim Basha in P7 on 160.5 points. And we've got a huge gap to P8 on 105 points for TAR Hayes. So he's 55.5 points off P7. For AJ Nolan on 94 points in P9, but he'll be happy. He's still got his race win this season, his first race win in his GRL career, so he's going to be happy about that one. And Yasin in P10 with 77 points. Then we've got Apex in P11 with 74 points, Cami in P12, Owl in P13, Kuroki in P14, Heated in P15, Artie Moreno in P16, Dom in P17, and then Luca B, Kixor, and Ricori rounding out the top 20. In the Constructors' Championship, AlphaTauri have done it just about. They've edged out Red Bull in the Constructors' Championship. AlphaTauri have got 478 points to the name, just 17.5 more than Red Bull. Mercedes then in third on 390 points. They've always been in that third place position throughout the season, just couldn't challenge the top 2, but therefore still a bronze medal for them. Alpine in fourth with 326 points, and Haas on 263. So Haas then with a strong end to the season, as said, with Dom and Corey, especially Corey, wrapping up a couple of race wins, brings them up from P10 to P5. Ferrari in P6 on 226 points, with Williams in 7th on 207. McLaren then in P8 on 191.5, and Alfa Romeo in the last race of the season, with a reserve of FSC Gaten cars, he's just about put them above the P10 position. They're now in P9, with Aston Martin in 10th on 174.5. Well, it was decided before the final race in Brazil, unfortunately, but I think someone who's not going to complain about the championship being decided will be Boosted himself. I mean, strong season from him, really. Not much to say about, just bang on consistent, just proof what you've mentioned all week, really. Consistency is key.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's been watching a bit of Thomas run hard, learning where he's got some hacks wrong, clearly. But no, I'm joking. I think it's definitely well deserved. You know, as much as I don't know what I'm saying actually, to be fair, but yeah, winning a championship is the best outcome you can get in a season, to be honest, because obviously it gives you a big boost into next season. You're going into the next season as a champion. You're going to see who maybe you're going up against next. Who are your closest rivals, basically. But yeah, to win it by a margin as well, you definitely feel you're comfy. Obviously, he's done it before the final round. Um, Not fun for a spectator point of view, but obviously, for his point of view, it's the best outcome he could have got, to be honest, because obviously he's shown last race, decided, you know what, I'll DNF. Clearly he wanted to spectate himself. So, yeah, I think congrats to him. See if he can do it again next season, and it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, probably realized they've won with AlphaTauri the Constructors' Championship, so might as well go for the Destructors' Championship as well. But yeah, I mean, obviously unfortunate to see him DNF in the last race, but I guess the trophy is more important to him anyway. Um, I mentioned for Mercedes, both drivers in the top five. They finished third in the Constructors' Championship. I mean, it's been one of those seasons for Maka, Lawn, and the team on Abiford really in Division 3, hasn't it? Where it was a good season. There's just not really a reward from it. I mean, it's still a third place in the Constructors' Championship, but you obviously would like a bit more, at least being in that fight. And they've just always been that one step behind AlphaTauri and Red Bull. How would you class their season? Would you think it was a strong showing, or do you think they just need to regroup, or if they get a new teammate, which is pretty likely, to just make that one more step next season to clinch some more silverware?
I mean, I guess everyone's, target is to be the best of the rest. Clearly, AlphaTauri are the better Red Bull team now, see who the real sister team is, see who the real big guns are now. But yeah, I think for Mercedes alone, third is still a good achievement. Obviously, again, top three is almost like aiming. There's only two people that have finished, well, two teams that have finished ahead of us. We can do better next season. Obviously that's counting on the fact that if they've got a good lineup, if their drivers can maximize, their skills and what the car has to give. But yeah, what's the point here? Obviously, there's a bit of a big margin behind Red Bull in second place, but again, um, third is still a good bit of silverware to gain and a good achievement to have on your back.
Yeah, I said it's just depends on the perspective, doesn't it? How you see it. I mean, they've got a strong average for sure. Both of them's got more than 180 points, so overall, very solid at least. And one more thing, talking in the Constructors' Championship, it's been a topic over the last 2 weeks. I've made it a topic really, but Alfa Romeo, we said like now it's over last time out when they were last, and they've somehow found the reserve to make them P9 again. I mean, even though it's only P9, I guess that must be some relief to not be bottom of the table, right? To just end the season on kind of a high, even though it's just a very slight high.
Yeah, no one wants to be last, regardless of where you are, top or bottom of the table. You do not want to be rock bottom of the table. The reserve who's been able to lift them up above that spot, I think can definitely give himself a pat on the back, as obviously we're not excluding whoever else has put them there, give them that many points to be able to work with. But yeah, I think they can still be proud of it. It's not last place, but it's also not first place. Give or take, you're still not last. That's the best part you can really say about it, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they're only half a point off McLaren in the end, so they're the tough end to the season as well. Mm, but yeah, I think we should leave it there to not abuse Alfa Romeo even more. I mean,
They'll try not to.
they've put themselves in that position, and the team owners make messes, so they probably deserve to be abused. But I don't know.
We'll leave it at
Um,
that.
let's still focus on Division 4, where we all know the champion. There was no championship fight for the last, what about last 10 weeks? Uh, yeah, let's just focus on the race and enjoy ourselves. It was Remo Banjo in the Ferrari who won once more from P2 in the grid, while the German of Killian Pro 03 I think that's killing 03 Pro usually, but okay. In the AlphaTauri, who finished second from pole position. So it must have been very close between them. I think the difference to the line was less than a tenth actually. So it must have been a drag race to the line, which obviously has been won by the Ferrari horse. And Raven West in third. That's a big shock, isn't it? So he picks up another podium for Mercedes with Tia Hayes in fourth. He said he enjoyed himself at Brazil in Division 4 for the first time. So he had a good end to his season with Coy in fifth, Nebrestrom in P6, Jesper in P7, El Squig in P8, which in my opinion actually is a hilarious game attack. Kirkod in P9 and Casper in P10 with White Josh in P11, Corbinian in P12, ARL Bob in P13, and Carl in P14. But what does that do to the Drivers' Championship? I mean, it doesn't do too much to the championship leader, who is now extended his gap to more than 170 points, as Ravenhurst sits on 393. But Jesper, with White Josh's horrific result at Brazil, has repassed him for second place as Jesper sits on 232 points and White Josh on 230. So 2 points Jesper is ahead now of the leading Alfa Romeo driver. Sonic then in fourth on 198 points, while Neb Restrom gets edged out by him by just 1 point. Remo Banja then moves up 2 positions up into P6 with 189 points, so strong end to the season for him. And Koye with 179 points in P7. And we've got Bright on 173, Ayahuasca in P9 on 140, and Ronnie in 10th on 127. The next two drivers in the table, we've got Aquel, Casper, Tweaky Scorpion, Captain Daniel, ARL Bob, RM James, Mighty J, AB Deep Day, Alex PC, and Wargasm, all having at least 43 points to the name. So a solid season for them, just not quite enough for the top 10. In the Constructors' Championship, Mercedes obviously winning also the Constructors' Championship with 534 points, while Alfa Romeo in second with 438 and Alpine on 404, so they couldn't beat Alfa Romeo in the end. Ferrari sit now in fourth with 370 points, and that win of Rima Banjo just puts them 1 point clear of Red Bull. AlphaTauri then in P6 with 301 points, and Aston Martin in 7th on 200, so over 100 points margin between P6 and P7. McLaren sit in P8 on 192 points, and Williams in 9th on 163, with Haas running off the table in P10 at the bottom with 147 points. Well, it's been close in the midfield all year. It's been spaced out towards the end a little bit, but in the battle for P2, we've had another swing, and now right at the death, Jesper put all his skill back into one race and one race only, and could beat White Josh to that second place in the championship. You reckon, how does that feel to him to at least finish with P2 in the drivers?
It must feel good, to be able to get it on the final race. It must feel even better, to be honest, because obviously, again, you don't have to keep pushing for that one spot. You can sort of relax, kick back, and say, "I've earned it." But yeah, apart from Wave and West completely running away with the championship, second place runners-up position you can be proud of. It's definitely a good target and a good achievement to be at.
Yeah, sure. I mean, White Josh had a very strong season. I think he also won a race. One race win, 4 podiums. So he started as an underdog really in this division and really turned out to be actually the top driver of Alfa Romeo, and they had 2 in the top 4 in the end. Very very strong from both of those drivers. A couple of them, also Sonic. I mean, fourth as well, just about ahead of Nebrestrom. And Nebrestrom has always been in talk of being probably the quickest driver in this division on pure pace, but he just struggled to put it all together. I mean, also for Sonic, it must feel good, doesn't it? Unlike his teammate, he was the one beating his rival. Also, Remo Banjo has said another win for him, meaning that's two now. He's got one pole and three podiums as well. Um, but yeah, in Division Four, it was weird, wasn't it? Considering there was no championship at all. But I think overall, looking at it and the races we've had, it was a pretty good watch even without the championship fight, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Raven West could be delighted with what he's done this season. Winning it, what, 5 races early. You can definitely say
Yeah,
this was my season to win. But nevertheless, yeah, I think everyone else in the championship, talking about Sonic being able to beat his rival, that's also another achievement. If you're able to beat your rival, it sort of gives a little sense of relief that, yeah, he's been able to achieve that. Um, as well as in the constructors, it's even better, really.
yeah. I'm just looking at the people that have won races in this division. It's unreal. There've been 11 different race winners. I mean, if we just look at one-time race winners, we've got Grace Kieran, who's nowhere in the standings, which is amazing to see with a race win. That you just need the consistency. White Josh and Sonic, both alphas have won a race. Koye has won a race, same as Alex PC. Um, Ayahuasca has actually won 2 races. I completely forgot about them, I can't lie. So's Bright, Rimo Banj and Nebrestrom, both of them won 2. Jesper's won 3. That was in the phase where we thought he would challenge Ravenwest for the title. But yeah, I mean, Ravenwest just counted that with 6 race wins, which, as you said, he's had an amazing season. Well, he'll hope it's not a one-season wonder, but considering he started league racing at the end of F1 22, so less than a year ago, that's certainly some achievement for him and will give him some confidence. Um, a very reliable league racer for sure is Raven West, and yeah, will be very interesting next season on how he deals with the pressure of being a champion. But yeah, that's not the discussion at the moment for now. He can relax, and he has made himself his own Christmas present with that championship for sure.
Yes, he has. I'll quickly just butt in and say, 11, 11 different race winners almost reminds you of the real life 2012 season, doesn't it?
It
There
does,
was
yeah. I mean,
it's almost like a hint back to the past.
I mean, how can I say? I mean, we obviously got multiple divisions, but we certainly had more Maldonados. And I'm not
Yeah.
talking about Spain. I'm certainly not talking about Spain. But that's not the point. But yeah, it was amazing. Just we missed a bit on the title decider in the end. We were only 170 points off it, but we work on it. We work on
We
it.
were close enough.
Yeah. Anyway, I want the championship fight, so we're gonna talk about Division 5 now. Brazil. It was who was it? It was Andrew and you and 10th Cannon actually. It was a three-way fight.
Yes, it
For
was.
the championship. Yeah. Um, it I can't fully remember the permutations, but you were leading by around 8 points, I believe, to Andrew. So he.
I think I had a 14-point lead. I think to Andrew and a 17 to 10th
Okay.
cannon, I believe it was.
Yeah, so it was let's say around 10, so I don't look like an absolute idiot.
Yeah, there you go.
To Andrew, and then 10th Cannon I think was like 17, 18 behind, so he still had a chance as well, but it was unlikely considering you figured out that there is something in between winning a race and not finishing a race. So
Yep.
I mean,
I learned very early on.
yeah. Well, that's another topic, isn't it? But yeah. So it was also streamed actually, that race. I watched it myself. So was a I wouldn't say calm, but there were not too many safety cars involved. Not like you would expect from a Division 5 title decider from previous experience. But
I think there was only one or two
yeah,
safety cars deployed.
yeah, I mean, let's have a look at the race results, though. I mean, it was at the last race of the season. You took pole actually, didn't you? I've noted down a 3-minute pole time. That certainly was not the case.
Yeah,
Um,
it was pissing down conditions, hurricane type level. It felt like it. No,
and
just a bit of a glitch in the
three
system.
minutes would suggest that you were going around Brazil in reverse gear. I mean, sounds cool.
I did it
Um,
in I
you
did it in the Mercedes safety car.
Mercedes safety. Yeah, surely even the Mercedes safety car is quicker than 3 minutes.
Could probably go quicker than that, I think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Karen got fastest lap and won the race from P14. I mean, he wasn't too interested in qualifying the last few weeks, but well, as long as he wins the race, I think he won't care too
I
much.
think he just set himself a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, you finished P2, was enough for the championship. We'll talk about that later, with NRT Frog rounding off his season on high in P3. Lexus in P4, Beck in Sagetta, or Patrick, that's easier for my tongue, in P5. Stone Shuffle in P6, 10th Cannon in P7, Erna in P8, J Street in P9, and Kevin rounding off the top 10 with Barbarino, Kieran, Andrew, we'll talk about him later as well, McMessy, Pat Payne, and Wargason outside the top 10 or even DNFing for the last three. So in the Drivers' Championship, we've got Ucintium winning the title with 278 points. Obviously, also the most race wins wrapped up. So even if it went to countback, it would have not been a doubt on who won that. 10th Cannon in second in the end on 252 points, meaning a great end to the season for the Haas F1 team. Andrew then in third on 247 points. Lexus comes fourth on 210, with Barbarinen 196. So the Frenchman sadly missed out even on P4, but he'll go again next season, I'm very sure. Milkow in P6 on 169 points, 8 points ahead of Freezy. So those two, sadly, were not racing in the last few rounds, but they could have certainly challenged for the top spots as well. J Street sits in P8 now with 149 points, and Earn on 131, while Becker, Sigeta, or Patrick sits on 128. Below the top 10, we've got Karen on 122, jumping up by 4 positions. Then we've got McMessy, Daza, Kieran UTM, Pat Pader, Stone Shuffle, NRT Frog, Kevin, Drizzle, and Spaldo. All of them at least having 77 points. So very strong season from most of them, but just not quite enough for the top 10. In the team championship, Haas also won that one. So it basically was double delight really in any championship for Haas with 646 points. They top these standings here as well. Alfa Romeo in second on 609 points, with Ferrari in third on 535. AlphaTauri sit in fourth on 425, 24 points ahead of McLaren. Mercedes get past Red Bull on countback, actually, as they both sit on 367 points. Williams then only 3 points behind those two, with Aston Martin on 312 points and Alpine on 278 points, sitting at the bottom of the table. I mean, it was your night, it was your race, so talk us through it, even if you don't remember too much of it, because we are certainly not recording this very late.
Oh no, this was recording a day after. I don't know what you're talking about, but no, it was a very. I'd say it was a sort of very up and down race. More up though. Obviously, it got a pole position time. I still remember that time. To be fair, it was a 1 minute 8.1. Um, in that qualifying session, it was pretty funny. I could have went. I could have done English. I could have done at least a high 7, but I got distracted by a Stone Shuffle putting himself in the wall when I started my lap.
Stone Shuffle.
Um, yeah,
A wild
it's
Stone
locked up, and
Shuffle.
I got a smoke screen in my screen, so I couldn't see
Oh,
the apex nearly. I got a bit distracted. Yeah, but No, it was a good race. Fighting at the top with McMessy. Obviously, he was also fighting us for the constructors. Very good racing, very harsh racing as well. But that's what we love about motorsport.
We all saw that.
Um,
Yeah.
it was really fun. I will say. I'll give it up to him for that. Um, with also Patrick or Becky Cisgete there, he was also fighting up at the top three. Overall, it was a really fun race. To be fair, I definitely can say that for myself and my teammate, being top two in the championship and being obviously winning the constructors. To be also sitting here the champion, it's a really good feeling. I will say that. It gives me a real good confidence boost going for next season to see where I can be and maybe potentially new opponents to be against. So it's all fun. Did get tagged in the race a little bit, so I did get set back, but not too far. Um, that just made it a bit more fun.
Yeah. I mean, he could have got the win, but Karen was just with his soft tires, I believe, was just a bit too
Yeah,
fast at the end.
he pitted. We had one safety car. I think maybe 10 laps left, maybe even less.
Yeah, I think it was around 10
Um,
because it was on the edge if those softs will die off or not.
yeah, it was. He definitely the softs did definitely die off because I was able to keep up for him for the last couple of laps. But yeah, I just thought I'm not gonna battle him too hard because obviously worst case we make contact, I get out of the race, the title's over for me. So I was like, I'm not gonna fight it too hard, just to ensure that I've got this race in the bag. So yeah, unfortunately I didn't get the race win, but obviously I came out on top, so still also a win.
Yeah, I mean, also the championship itself. I mean, God, surely you're proud of yourself to wrap up that championship, last race of the season as well. And now just a bit of time to relax. No?
Yeah, definitely a bit of time to rewind, sit back, not have to worry about racing for 3 weeks. Was definitely good.
I mean, I would say best year of league racing you ever had for you. I mean, that's certainly that, considering it's the first one.
Yeah, I think I've maybe got a few seasons ahead to really compare, but it's definitely been a good start to my league racing career, I will say.
Yeah, well, yeah, I've actually won my first league racing season as well, so I guess that's a good sign. That means you're going to be here for at least another 4 years. Well,
Yeah,
and then you'll feel old. But yeah, another topic. I mean, 10th Cannon obviously finished second, but we got to talk about Andrew. I mean, one of the downhill scenes really in that race. I mean, he obviously on purpose caused the collision with Kieran. He was annoyed. He said he'll take the penalty, obviously, as he took, as he says, well, justice in his own hands. Not really what you want to see, but overall, what do you think of Andrew's season? I mean, you and 10th Cannon came in with a lot of pace, attacking his championship. I mean, Andrew obviously said um, he was confused that he was leading the championship at that time because he felt like he didn't have enough pace, which proved to be right at the end, considering both of you have beat him at the end. But yeah, what you gonna miss racing Andrew next season, or just looking ahead to the new challenges?
yeah, I do feel a bit sorry for him. He did have the consistency there. Obviously, he was on top. Um, Obviously, me being me, I could have taken the championship lead way earlier, but obviously mistakes here and there. It didn't go to plan, but makes it more fun, obviously. Um, yeah, I think Andrew he definitely performed well. Obviously, he's saying himself that he was confused at why he was in the championship lead, but it's down to the fact that if you can score points, if you can just keep the consistency levels on top, it shows that you can still be in the fight regardless of where you finish and regardless of how much pace you got. Um, Saying that, I think, yeah, I will miss racing him. I didn't get to race him much, but I think having that constant fear of if I slip up, he's still going to be there scoring points that are going to extend.
Yeah, he's like one of those small dogs. You don't see them at first, but as soon as they're near your leg, they are pretty annoying because they just don't go away. But yeah, I mean, it was a strong season overall from all three protagonists. Just A shame for the two missing out, and one of them I'm sure is going to be pretty happy that it ended like it did. But yeah, now our final division, our bottom division of Division 7. It was obviously clear that Skion already won the Drivers' Championship beforehand, so it was game on for everyone really to go full send in that final race. And it was Mike Reed in the Haas who won from Moss in second and Quickmick in third. Flasher finishes fourth with Matthew in P5, Stueb in P6, Brown Spons in P7, Blast Alpha in P8, Monopole Monster in P9, Kieran W in 10th, Golden Wolf in P11, Sparky in P12, Skion in P13, Static in P14, Mason Roth in P15 and Marley in P16. So no DNFs. So that's some surprise. Um, in the Drivers' Championship, Skion obviously on top with 279 points, while Flasher comes second with 235 and a half, just 3 points ahead of the leading Alfa Romeo Stoeb. So a Flasher wins that Battle of the Baguettes. Is that what you want to call it? Well, certainly the leading French driver, that's for sure. While Mike Reid comes fourth in the end with 201 points, just 3 points ahead of Moss. So the second place of Moss and the race win from Mike Reid really puts them up the table here. Brown Spans in P6 on 194 points, with Gasser Buchanan sadly left the league after Miami only 185.5 points. Quick Mick comes 8th in the championship with 166 points from Leo Hamilton, and Mason Roth in 10th on 103 points. Further down the order, we've got Matthew, Logan J, Sparky, Ace Guy or Lucino as we know him, Benjo Warrior, Monopole Monster, Reese, Sigramato, Golden Wolf, and I for Red, with people like SLR Vettel and Plus Alpha further down the order. In the Constructors' Championship, McLaren sit on top as well with 485 points, and Haas are in second on 436.5. Alfa Romeo promote themselves up the table into third on 312 points, with Mercedes on 308. While Ferrari sit in P5 on 289.5, we've got Red Bull in sixth on 282.5, passing Williams, who are now in 7th on 279. Bit demoralizing for them, considering they were fighting for the top spot at one point. Alpine in P8 on 245.5 points, with AlphaTauri in 241.5, only 4 points off, while Aston Martin, with a big margin, are in P10 or P last in the championship on 138.5 points. I mean, most positions were already finalized here. Just some slight changes possible. I mean, Axe Flasher was level on points with Stewart before this race, so he's beaten him just about. So he's going to be happy about that into P2 of the championship. But Moss has moved up, obviously, the table with that second place now, also making McLaren Constructors champions, obviously, last time out. And Mike Reed, I mean, he's moved up 3 positions with that race win. So, especially for actually for both of your Haas teammates, they've had a cracking final round to the season. And what do you think? Will they enjoy the rest after that success?
Yeah, I think they definitely will. To finish on a high, you can definitely close your eyes and think there's nothing I could have done better. Obviously, you wish you could finish better in the championship, but there's nothing more than winning the final race of the season. Um, as you were saying, obviously, X Flasher beating Stoob, I think, definitely Battle of the Baguettes or even Battle of Paris. That can be won, and obviously, X Flasher came out on top, so I guess he can have the bragging rights for that. Don't know for how much longer, because obviously, you've got another season to drive against him against, but he can keep that for the moment. But yeah, Mike Reed, he's definitely gained a lot in the championship, finishing fourth. He can be proud of that, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a strong end for the American outfit of Haas. Um, yeah, good to see them doing that well. Also McLaren, I mean, Skion had a tough race, but most at least did well. I mean, Quick Mick also had another podium now. I mean, Skion got the most race wins looking at it, but once again, 10 race winners in Division 7. Yeah, with Quick Make, Flasher, Stoop, and Mike Reed, we've actually got 4 people with 3 race wins, and of course Skion has done one with 4. So 5 with 3 or more race wins is certainly very strong for them. And I think with Skion possibly being promoted, it might be between them 4 for the championship next season. It's going to be very interesting for sure to watch that. Have you anything to add to that Division 7 campaign?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Skion's done a huge effort to be able to win the championship again before the final race and with a decent margin as well. Um, he can be proud of that, and I think he will definitely be seeing a promotion in his future. That'll give him more competition, obviously. The more you know you've ran away with the championship, the more you can sort of think, where's the next competition? Who is it going to be? And can I either repeat that process or will it be more of a challenge? But I think he could be happy with himself right now. Obviously, the same with the top four, top five, as you say. Alex Flasher, Stu, Mike Reed, and Moss. They could be happy with what they've done. They've gained, and they've done well. So you can't be unhappy with that.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I mean that's that nicely summed up really because we talked about the overall constructors all season really, but we know who came out on top. It was Mercedes. Alfa Romeo came second, and Red Bull came third in the end. I mean, those 3 team owners, Beeford, McBessy, and Bray, will obviously come back for next season and try to put up another challenge. And we'll have to see um, on how that goes. Yeah, I mean that's another season of GRL finished. Um, season 4 is done. We're now ready for season 5. Um, with the draft obviously being at the start of January, and then the next season starting on 15th of January at Bahrain. Yes, Intim, anything to add before we close season 4 officially?
Um, Obviously, congratulations to all the champions
Yeah.
in the season that have came. They've done excellent. They've drove their hearts out. They've shown what they can do. They've shown to never give up, regardless of where your season starts. And yeah, they can be proud of what they've done.
They can indeed. I mean, also to the people, obviously, that only won races or podiums or even, got a couple of points. I mean, um, as long as you enjoy it, that's a W in my eyes. Um,
Yeah, it definitely is.
but I mean, you can all go again in 2024. So I personally can't wait. The divisions are hopefully even closer. Maybe
Yeah,
we can continue the streak of the little GRL curse that nobody can win 2 championships ever. We've not had it in 4 seasons. If we make it 5, that's why we've got 2 and 4. Then we've got 7. 7 and 7 is 14. So that will put us on 23. Yeah. So in 23 championships, we've never had someone winning 2. So that's strong.
I guess we'll find out, won't we?
Yeah, I mean, we will. I mean, hopefully not too soon, because we obviously want them going down to the wire. But yeah, for this season, that's GRL sorted. And yeah, thank you from everyone who's been watching the podcast, obviously, because we're doing this for, I think, not loads of people, but for those who are watching, thank you very much. And we'll see you again when GRL returns for season 5.